wedding celebration was in high spirits as the attendees adorned Cheta with beautiful wrappers. She made her way out to meet her husband for the first time. Today, on their wedding day, Kambili will be seeing and meeting his bride Cheta for the very first time. To satisfy your curiosity, here is a bit of background about our main characters Kambili and Cheta. Kambili is the only child of the renowned Chief Wimo, a wealthy businessman from Mbidi village. Like his name Kambili, meaning allow me live, Kambili was free-spirited. He loved living his life to the fullest, and by doing that he stepped on a lot of toes. Chief Wimo, known for his extensive business ventures, invested heavily in Kambili's education, sending him abroad to acquire the best knowledge to elevate their family business. After several years abroad, Kambili returned home due to his father's declining health. During this period, Kambili became notorious for chasing every lady in sight. As news of his return spread like wildfire, many women eagerly sought his attention. Frustrated by his son's irresponsible behavior, Chief Wimo and his wife, Neafoma, decided to find a suitable bride for Kambili, hoping that marriage would help him settle down and focus on the family business. With several accusations of pregnancy and blackmail, Neafoma was quick to suggest Cheta, the daughter of her most loyal and long-serving maid, Njideka. Neafoma called Njideka aside and proposed the marriage to her daughter. Feeling favored, Njideka accepted without consulting Cheta. While the alliance was confirmed, Kambili was informed about his upcoming wedding. He felt a bit sad that his parents didn't trust him to choose a bride for himself. Chief Wimo threatened to cut Kambili off if he refused to go through with the wedding. On the other hand, Cheta, known as a church girl from a very humble background, was all her mother had along with her younger brother after their uncles chased them away from her father's house following his death. Cheta wasn't like most maidens in their village. She was different. A virgin who had known no man, she carried herself with immense dignity. She had a voice that could bring down the heavens. She was a natural talent. She had led her church choir for years. She hoped to touch the lives of the people of Mbidi. Knowing her mother couldn't afford training them both in school, Cheta dropped out so her brother could continue, while she focused on her spiritual growth. When her mother told her about the marriage proposal, Cheta was shocked that her mother made such a decision on her behalf, but trusted her mother's judgment nonetheless. Fast forward to the wedding day. Neither main characters knew anything about the other. All they had was a promise of a happy home. As Cheta made her way out to meet Chief Wimo and Neafoma, she tried to peek through her veil to get a glimpse of her groom. Kambili, on the other hand, was indifferent about the wedding. To him, it was just a task to complete so his father wouldn't cut him off. He had nothing to lose. For generations, the Wimo family had sworn every woman who entered their family to an oath of loyalty and complete submission. If they ever lay with another man after marriage beside their husband, they would run mad and die in 7 days. Neafoma had chosen Cheta strategically, knowing about her strong Christian values and faith. She hoped with crossed fingers bringing Cheta into Kambili's life would somehow rub off on her son. When the herbalist came to swear her in, Cheta resisted, claiming it was against her faith. But after several persuasions from her mother, she agreed to swear before the idol. The herbalist came and swore the oath of loyalty, eternally binding Cheta to Kambili. Kambili was then called to stand beside his bride. He walked up from behind and stood next to her. Afterward, Kambili was asked to lift her veil and drink the palm wine. Kambili did so, not expecting much. At that moment, their eyes met. Cheta was a stunningly beautiful dark-skinned girl. Shy but composed, she stood before him with grace. Kambili instinctively adjusted his attire. Trying to appear composed, he couldn't believe this beautiful maiden was to be his wife. She embodied the best qualities of several maidens, wrapped in a naive demeanor. They giggled at each other, and the attendees cheered, sensing that these two were already captivated by one another. For the first time ever, Kambili felt a sudden urge to protect this very woman standing before him and give her all she desired. He had broken several hearts in the past and had gained a lot of enemies, but there was something about Cheta's innocence that made him want to commit. The grand occasion was successful, and the attendees all retired to their respective homes. Trying to break the awkwardness between themselves, Cheta and Kambili decided to take a walk around the mansion to give them time away from every other person to get to know each other better. As they strolled, Kambili shared stories of his escapades in the white man's land, his extensive travels, and his accomplishments over the years. Cheta listened in amazement, having known little about the outside world until Kambili spoke about it. Seeing how captivated Cheta was by his stories, Kambili embellished his tales further to impress her. They laughed and joked about each other's experiences, losing track of time and staying out all night, simply enjoying each other's company and learning more about each other. Weeks later, they moved back to Enugu to begin their lives. Cheta and Kambili's home was blessed. They were a match made in heaven. Kambili's hardworking, jovial and goofy nature matched perfectly with Cheta's nurturing and calm demeanor, filling their home with love. They were blessed with two daughters, Nali and Amari. One fateful day, a friend of Kambili's, who had also lived abroad, visited their home. He was impressed by how transformed Kambili was and praised him for finding such a good and beautiful wife. Before leaving, he jokingly commended Cheta for turning Kambili into a family man. Months after, at an event they attended together, everyone noticed Kambili's new attitude towards his wife and praised Cheta for her strong influence. They reminisced about Kambili's past escapades and how he got over a certain lady, Kaima. They spoke on how shocked everyone was Kambili didn't marry Kaima after what transpired between them. The air became tensed, but his friends wouldn't stop as Cheta didn't seem to mind. It was all fun and jokes, but Kambili began to withdraw and seem deep in thought. Cheta began to wonder who this lady was. On their way back home, she inquired to know more about Kaima. Kambili reluctantly brushed the topic aside, claiming Kaima wasn't important. That evening, while laying in bed, Kambili reminisced on Kaima, where she must be, what happened after they parted ways. While in thought, he looks at Cheta lying beside him, deeply asleep. He chuckles while brushing her hair off her face. Since Cheta entered his life, he could see the transformation Cheta had brought into his life. The next morning, still worrying about his concerns for Kaima, he decided to reach out to know if she was okay. Kambili and Kaima had a very intense relationship in the past. It was like a force he couldn't fight. His parents never approved their relationship because of the control and strong influence Kaima had on their son. Kaima's mother was a well-known herbalist who many accused of using her talents for evil. Every man in the community then longed for Kaima, and she loved the attention she got from all men, especially Kambili, as he was the most sought-after bachelor in Mbidi. But when he couldn't get Kaima, he resorted to humanizing to try quench that hunger. Now, in the present, Kambili felt this strong urge to open up to Cheta about his past. But she was distracted and attending to the girl, so she didn't pay much attention. She kissed him goodbye and went inside to continue what she was doing. Hours later, and Kambili is standing in front of a fancy restaurant in Asaba, one he and Kaima used to visit a long time ago. Fond memories of his past relationship with Kaima resurfaces. As he stepped into the restaurant, something unexplainable happened. He felt a strong urge to reconnect with Kaima. Everything about the surrounding was the same as he had always known it. He sat by a corner and he questioned what he was doing there. Each time he tried to leave, he felt a strong force pinning him down. Suddenly, a voice from behind echoed,
Kambili, I knew you would show up here one day.
Kaima walks in looking all beautiful as usual. Everyone in the restaurant mesmerized by her beauty. She went in for a warm hug. Kaima stood before him, strikingly youthful and full of vibrant energy. On a spontaneous whim, he invited her to join his table. As the evening unfolded, Kaima and Kambili laughed and reminisced on old times. Nothing else mattered but that moment there with Kaima. Kaima's youth and mannerisms reminded him of the younger days. Their connection deepened as the night wore on, leading to a night of physical intimacy. From that day on, Kambili felt himself obsessing over Kaima. Despite the persistent guilt, Kambili found himself helplessly drawn to Kaima's allure like years back. What was supposed to be a one-night stand evolved into a full-blown affair. The thrill of the chase and the satisfaction it brought him was irresistible. Kambili found himself making more trips to see her, indifferent of how it affected Cheta, his wife. His friends who covered for his wayward behavior further enabled him. The thrill Kaima offered awakened the dormant part of Kambili, satisfying his desires and overshadowing his guilt. He enjoyed the thrills of their hidden affair. Even though he loved Cheta, Kaima tickled his fancy. Kaima lived for now. She was very experienced and wild, unlike Cheta, who was too reserved to keep him entertained. He began to initiate quarrels over trivial matters to stay away from Cheta. Most nights she cried and tried to fix their marriage, but Kambili was too carried away by Kaima. It was like he was under a spell. Cheta eventually questioned him about the recent lifestyle and its impact on their home. Kambili, fully aware of her concerns, downplayed her feelings, making her feel like she was merely looking for a fight. She resorted to changing her style of dressing or hairstyle to gain his attention, but he didn't notice. She joined gym classes to lose the weight she gathered through the years, but he wasn't even around to notice. She created several family moments to help keep their home, but even when he was home, he was absent. Finally, she confided in his mother, who encouraged her to keep being a good wife. Her husband would change with time. This pattern continued for 2 more years. Finally, Cheta decided to take matters into her own hands and began to follow her husband. During one of his trips, she followed him to a local hotel on the outskirts of the city, where he met with Kaima. Seeing how young and attractive Kaima was, Cheta's confidence shattered. She returned home with countless unanswered questions. That weekend, Cheta and her daughters traveled to Igbidi. After dropping off the kids with her mother, she checked into the same hotel where she caught her husband with Kaima. She waited patiently and soon Kaima emerged. Cheta approached her, requesting a private conversation, of which Kaima reluctantly agreed. She invited Kaima to her room. Without thinking, she knelt before her, begging her to end her affair with her husband. "You're a beautiful young woman. Don't you care about the homes you're destroying? My husband Kambili was here with you recently. To you, he might be just a fling, but to me, he's my life and my world. The father of my children. I vow to be his wife forever. Please don't break my home. I shouldn't have to ask you this, but this has been going on for years and my home is falling apart. Woman to woman, please end it with him." Shocked, yet amazed at the power she wielded in Kambili's home, Kaima let out a loud laugh. Glancing at Cheta, she sneered, knowing that a man like Kambili would never stay faithful to a woman with no class. Disgust dripping from her voice, she spat out, "Madame, have you no shame kneeling before your husband's mistress?" With a hiss and an evil smile, she walked out of the room. Cheta, humiliated and seeking solace, turned to a bottle of alcohol, downing it in an attempt to numb her pain. Yet, the harsh reality refused to fade. Desperate for comfort and guidance, she decided to confide in her mother. Struggling to keep her eyes on the road, she finally arrived at her mother's house, tears threatening to spill. "Mama, what do I do? This wasn't the life you promised I would have. Kambili never truly belonged to me. I thought after all these years, our beautiful children, our once happy home, he'll change. We were happy, Mama. Where did I go wrong? My husband is having an affair with his ex-girlfriend. Cheta's mother listened intently, her heart breaking at the sight of her daughter's suffering. She offered a shoulder to cry on, quietly absorbing the pain and anguish that had reduced her innocent daughter to this state. My daughter, your first mistake was confronting your husband's mistress, her mother said softly. You seem to have lost your voice. Kambili is your husband. Turn to God in prayer. Trust him to put your home back together. She prayed with Cheta, offered a comforting hug, and bid her farewell. Cheta and her daughter set out on their journey back home. Distracted and distressed, Cheta took a wrong turn, sending the car flying through the air. The children were rescued, but Cheta was missing. Despite extensive search efforts, months passed with no signs of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. In the aftermath, Kaima gradually became a regular visitor in Kambili's home. Seizing the opportunity, she manipulated her way into the household, firmly inserting herself into Nali and Amari's lives. 8 months after Cheta's disappearance, Kambili, clinging to hope, was finally persuaded by Kaima to arrange a memorial service for Cheta. A burial was arranged, symbolizing the end of Cheta's presence in their lives and allowing them to move forward. After giving birth to their son, Somto, Kaima struggled with insecurities. She had a hard time believing Kambili still had eyes for her. She fired the two maids to reduce female access to her Kambili. As years passed, she took on wifely duties. Without help from no one, she struggled with the responsibility of fully running their big home with 3 very active kids. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, businesses, and still trying to remain cute for Kambili. Now being in Cheta's shoes, she couldn't understand why a man would jeopardize a home managed by a woman like Cheta. These thoughts played Kaima's mind, making it increasingly difficult for her to trust Kambili. She began questioning her sanity, unable to bear Kambili talking to other women. It was like Cheta brought her into her home to inherit her insecurities. It was like a curse. She never could get emotional stability with Kambili. She couldn't help herself. She realized she only had an upper hand from outside their home, and Kambili was serious high maintenance. She had known Kambili for years, so she knew his pattern. She feared every minute Kambili was away, dreading he might introduce another woman. She found solace only in the riches around her. With Cheta's 1-year memorial coming up, tension grew in their home. The kids withdrew with memories of their mother. Kambili, on the other hand, plagued with the guilt of what led to her demise, also withdrew to himself. The day of Cheta's memorial came, and it was a success, and Kambili's mother urged him to marry Kaima, seeing that she has been taking care of their home since Cheta's demise. Months passed and wedding bells were ringing, and for the second time, Imbidi community converged again for Kambili's wedding. Kaima was sworn into an Imbidi oath of loyalty and complete submission. Kambili drank of the palm wine, sealing him now to Kaima. The crowd erupted in cheers. Suddenly, chaos erupted at the back of the venue as a woman stumbled in. Whispers spread through the crowd as attendees recognized her. It was Cheta. She appeared mentally unstable, her eyes wild and unfocused. The sight of the large gathering seemed to awaken memories of her as a chorister. Overwhelmed, she let out a piercing scream, and then, almost instinctively, began to sing. The music poured out of her, raw and haunting, bringing the ceremony to a stunned halt. It was like a heavy weight had been lifted off her shoulder as she fainted right after and was rushed to the hospital. Kambili paced the halls of the hospital, demanding to know what had happened to his wife, as Kaima sat there in her wedding clothes, stunned at Kambili still calling Cheta his wife, even after swearing an oath less than an hour ago. It wasn't long and one of the doctors approached Kambili with an update. He claimed Cheta had a major concussion about a year ago. Putting the pieces together, Kambili understood Cheta's absence. He asked the doctor to take his wife home to take better care of her, of which Kaima angrily gave a stern warning not to bring Cheta into her home. Cheta and her daughters were later moved to her mother's place to continue the healing process. A restless Kambili, still shocked that Cheta was still alive, filled with guilt and remorse, made it a constant duty to visit Cheta several times in a week. There was a sense of peace he found when he was away from home and in Cheta's presence. It was the same peace Cheta offered when she was his wife. Now, Kambili's mistakes not only shattered their home, but also released Cheta from the Nbidi oath, making her a single maiden once more. He knew her newfound status wouldn't last long. This realization haunted him every day as he drove back home. Frustration and unease growing inside him. Unable to contain his anger, he began taking it out on Kaima. On the other hand, Kaima, feeling like an unappreciated new bride, grew weary of Kambili's frequent absences and travels. She began to suspect he was trying to bring Cheta into her home. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to follow him one day. From a distance, she watched as Kambili entered the church complex, where Nali and Amari greeted him warmly and took him inside. Inside, Kaima saw Cheta standing before a crowd, recounting all she had endured over the past year and how her fate had been her salvation. She couldn't remember much, but seeing the gathered crowd that day at the wedding instinctively triggered something in her, prompting her to sing. Turning to Kambili, she apologized for unintentionally taking attention away from him and his new bride. Those words struck Kambili deeply. Overwhelmed, he reached out to console her with a warm hug. As Cheta broke down in tears, Kambili's grip tightened around her, sharing in her pain. It was evident that there was still a deep connection between them. As Cheta eventually withdrew from his embrace, Kaima, sitting in her car, seated with jealousy and rage, misinterpreted their interaction. She felt the same pain Cheta had endured for 2 years, all in those minutes. Unable to contain her fury, Kaima stormed into the church and confronted them in front of the crowd. Without giving Kambili or anyone else a chance to explain, she lashed out violently, leaving Kambili grievously injured. The incident horrified everyone and Kambili was rushed to the hospital. Despite the doctor's best efforts, they couldn't fully repair the damage, leaving Kambili dependent on a catheter to pass urine. As Kaima sat in the waiting area with Somto, she reflected on her fate and the consequences of her impulsive actions. She realized that her desperate quest to marry Kambili had not only trapped her in Cheta's home, but also bound her to a severely impaired man still in love with his ex. Moreover, the fear of the Nbidi oath, real or imagined, prevented her from being with another man even in Kambili's current condition. Deep in thought, Kaima watched as Cheta and her daughters walked past her. Somto let go of Kaima's hand, running to join his sisters. Seated alone with no one around her, Kaima and Cheta exchanged a look that spoke volumes. It dawned on Kaima that she had never been a real contender. Even as Kambili's current wife, she was still never a main character in this story. Cheta walked into Kambili's room with Nali, Amari and Somto. The life they would have lived if only he had honored their marriage replayed in his mind as he clenched his fists, trying to mask his pain. They all sat around him in the silent room, the only sound being the slow dripping of urine through the catheter. This brings me to the end of this story. Infidelity and lack of communication are central themes in this story, highlighting the destruction they can bring to a family. Kambili's affair with Kaima eroded the trust and unity in his family, inflicting deep emotional wounds on Cheta and their children. Despite Cheta's efforts to keep her family together and seek reconciliation, the damage caused by Kambili's actions were profound. The story also illustrates the role of humility and forgiveness, as Cheta's strong Christian values and willingness to forgive, even after enduring betrayal, ultimately led to her resilience and eventual return. Her character exemplifies the power of humility, patience, and faith in overcoming life's challenges. On the other hand, the story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of manipulation and jealousy. Kaima's manipulation and jealousy created a toxic environment, leading to her own misery and the downfall of Kambili. Her actions out of jealousy and insecurity backfired, trapping her in a loveless marriage bound by the Infidelity oath. This highlights the old saying, "What goes around comes around," as both Kambili and Kaima faced with the consequences of their actions. Moreover, the story emphasizes the healing power of love and support. Cheta's recovery was facilitated by the unwavering love and support from her mother and daughters, while Kambili's remorse and realization of his true feelings for Cheta marked steps towards reconciliation. Finally, it's good to also point out that character, respect for faith, and the ability to forgive are essential in overcoming adversity and rebuilding broken relationships. If the story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and please don't forget to click that subscribe button. Until next time, bye!